If you had to invest in AI, what company would you pick? Microsoft or Palantir? These tech giants are battling for AI supremacy. One is a household name that's been practically printing money for decades, while the other is a relatively unknown data analytics company, once known only in government circles. But when it comes to AI, both Microsoft and Palantir are almost always in the news. But if you could only choose one company, which would you buy? Hi, my name is Rick Orford, and I help investors like you make informed decisions with your money. I've been trading stocks and options since 1999, and that means I've had my fair share of bear markets, recessions, market corrections, and pretty much everything in between. If experience has taught me anything, growth investing works well when you focus on quality companies during temporary pullbacks, kind of like what we're seeing right now. And today, I'm analyzing one of the most requested comparisons, and that's Palantir and Microsoft. By the way, I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. The Motley Fool is a company that provides investing insights and stock recommendations for investors of all skill sets and risk levels. And y'all know how much I love researching new stocks and finding the next best investment. So I'm proud to partner with the Motley Fool to bring you 10 stock picks from their popular product, Stock Advisor. Stock Advisor has beaten the market by more than 5 times, and you can scan this QR code or visit fool.com/RickO to get your 10 stock picks right now. Okay, so first, let's talk about Microsoft. Everyone knows Microsoft, right? The company currently has about a $2.7 trillion market cap and serves 3 main business segments: productivity and business processes, which includes Office, LinkedIn, and Dynamics; intelligent cloud, and this is where you can find Azure, server products, and GitHub; and more personal computing, which includes Windows, Surface, and Xbox. Microsoft's second quarter 2025 financials reported quarterly revenue increasing 12% year over year to nearly $70 billion, and with its operating income also increasing 17% in the same period. When you break it down by segment, you'll see that intelligent cloud is growing at 19%, productivity is up 14%, and personal computing basically is flat at 0. So I think what's impressive about Microsoft isn't its explosive growth, but rather its consistency. And speaking of consistency, Microsoft stock is up 110% over the past 5 years, and more than doubling its annual EPS over the same period. Actually, when companies grow their earnings per share 10-20% a year, it's very common for the stock to follow suit over the long term. By the way, the data used in this video is powered by Barchart. Stop wasting hours looking for stocks, because Barchart lets you find data on thousands of tickers and allows you to filter by price, volume, sector, and more, so you can find winning opportunities in seconds. I use it every single day, and you can too. Just scan this QR code or click the link in the description to create your free account and start screening like a pro. Okay, now on to Palantir Technologies. Now this is a much younger tech company. Palantir was founded by Peter Thiel and others in 2003 and went public in 2020. Since then, the company is famous for working with governments and is now expanding into commercial operations using applications that help businesses analyze data. Like Microsoft, Palantir has also multiple segments. One is Gotham, which helps intelligence and defense agencies identify patterns in datasets. 2 is Foundry, which is the central operating system for enterprise data. Next, we have Apollo, which is cloud-based monitoring for heavily regulated industries such as healthcare and finance. And its newest offering is called AIP, or it stands for Palantir's Artificial Intelligence Platform, which integrates AI into existing business systems. Palantir's most recent financials isn't something you would expect from a relatively new tech company. Its annual and quarterly revenue increased by 29 and 36% year over year, while its net income for the same period increased 10 and 16% respectively. Now, one question I got recently on my Discord channel is what would happen to Palantir if the government cut their spending? Well, that's a great question. And some analysts claim that Palantir Technologies is highly dependent on US government contracts, and it was in the past. And investing in such a business model could be risky. They also argue that the company is vulnerable to events like potential budget cuts and administrative changes and geopolitical issues. And they're not entirely wrong. But here's the thing. Palantir started to work with NATO, which means NATO members like Canada, Italy, or France might too become clients. Also, the company's expansion to private sectors is happening way faster than analysts predicted. Its quarterly and annual revenue from the US commercial sector increased by 54 and 64%, respectively, year over year. So now that you have an idea of what the companies do, and since this video is about which AI stock to invest in, I want to focus more on what each company is doing with it, because that's what really matters when investing in AI, right? So let's start with Microsoft. Microsoft recently invested $13 billion in OpenAI in exchange for access to GPT that Microsoft has now included in their products and services. OpenAI is now integrated into Microsoft 365, GitHub, Copilot, Bing, Azure, and other offerings. Now, if you're using one of these in your daily workflow, you can thank Microsoft for their early investment initiatives. On an interesting note, Microsoft is developing its own in-house AI reasoning models to actually compete with AI, but that's it for another video. Also, Microsoft recently made headlines with its Dragon Copilot. This is the first AI assistant for the healthcare sector. The primary goal of this assistant is to reduce clinical documentation time, and it was made possible by combining ambient sound listening with speech recognition technology. Sounds pretty fancy, right? Well, more importantly, the healthcare tech market is expected to grow from $354 billion this year in 2025 to $981 billion in 2023. And if Dragon Copilot can capture even a small part of that, well, that could translate to be a huge catalyst for Microsoft. Palantir, on the other hand, is using AI as a cornerstone within their data analytics platforms. Its AIP, or Artificial Intelligence Platform, integrates AI into businesses. And it's been getting a lot of traction since Palantir is one of the very few organizations that have the ability to integrate their AI into businesses' existing systems. I mean, there shouldn't be any surprise that many organizations struggle with AI integration. So Palantir is reaping the benefits. The company's customer count for fourth quarter of 2024 increased by 43% year over year, which says a lot about its demand. However, Palantir's AIP isn't for consumer apps, not like how Microsoft integrated GPT into their own products. It's essentially about using AI to solve operational issues for businesses and governments with strict requirements. And this is also one of the contributing factors as to why many believe Palantir is in a prime spot for significant growth. They earn from the government and private sectors. Now, when we're considering whether Microsoft or Palantir is a better bet, we also have to look at each's financial performance. In terms of revenues, Microsoft generated $69.63 billion in just one quarter, while Palantir only did $2.87 billion in the entire year, which means Microsoft sells about 100 times as much on a revenue basis. On the other hand, if we look at growth, Palantir's quarterly revenue was up 36% year over year, while Microsoft was up only 12%. And this is to be expected because mature companies tend to have a lower yet consistent growth rate. Profitability-wise, Microsoft's net income was $24.1 billion for the second quarter alone in 2025, while Palantir's annual bottom line was $462 million for all of 2024. So yeah, Microsoft is far more profitable. But valuation-wise, this is where it gets a little interesting. In terms of how expensive the stock is, Microsoft trades at a forward PE of about 28, which is a little higher than the tech sector's average of 23.77. Palantir, on the other hand, trades at a trailing PE of a whopping 750 times based on last year's numbers, and 298 times based on 2025's estimated numbers. This means investors are very aggressive with their growth expectations, or you could say confidence, for the stock. This valuation is significantly higher than Microsoft's. But to be fair, traditional valuation metrics like PE ratios aren't that reliable for tech companies that are still starting out. And this, I think, is the case for Palantir. Now, if we look back a few years ago, Amazon traded around 1,000x right after the financial crisis, and there was a lot of skepticism about the company. But they're doing pretty well today, right? Now, no comparison can be made without looking at the risks. Every investment comes with risks, so let's see what could go wrong for each company. For Microsoft, slower cloud adoption rates could affect Azure. And why is this a risk? Well, Azure is one of Microsoft's currently highest revenue drivers. So if customers opt for multi-cloud solutions, Microsoft could experience an overall slowdown. Another risk to consider is the growing competition in the AI market from other companies like Google, Amazon, Meta, and others. And of course, economic factors like US President Donald Trump's tariff implementations, well, events like this could negatively impact enterprise spending. I mean, we've already seen how tariffs have caused wild market swings, with over $10 trillion in market cap vanishing in April of 2025. So that's it for Microsoft. Now let's look at Palantir. First, the company is expanding rapidly into the private sector, but over 58% of its overall revenue for fiscal 2024 came from the US government. This means the news about the government cutting their spending in annual defense by 8% could affect Palantir to some degree. Another risk factor for Palantir is that expanding from government to private businesses can be difficult. The sales process and pricing structures are completely different, since government agencies have practically unlimited credit limits compared to businesses with tighter budgets. So, in the near term, I think Palantir might not earn as much from the private sector as they do from the government. Also, Palantir's trailing PE of over 750x means the stock is priced on a best case scenario, something you wouldn't see from a more established company, but you might in a newer company like Palantir. Any earnings miss or slower growth could trigger a severe contraction with Palantir. So, which company do you choose? Well, if I had to choose just one company, I'd probably go with Microsoft for a few reasons. Microsoft and Palantir require different approaches to investing in AI. Microsoft offers steady growth with lower risk, while Palantir offers higher growth but at the cost of more volatility. So your choice should depend on your own investment goals and risk tolerance. If you're a long-term investor and interested in AI, I think Microsoft is a clear winner. Now, if you're willing to accept more risk for potentially higher returns, then Palantir could outperform the competition over the long term if it can execute well on its expansion strategies. So that's my take on both companies. What do you think? Do you have any questions about this comparison? Or maybe you have a suggestion for a topic that you'd like me to cover? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're there, feel free to like and subscribe if you happen to find this video useful. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.